He wasn't the face you saw on magazine covers, nor the one bathed in flashing stage lights. But without him, the songs that defined a generation would never have existed. While the world danced to glittering choruses and flawless harmonies, Benny Andersson was behind the glass, building the sound that would echo for decades. His journey wasn't just one of chart-topping success, it was also a story of burnout, heartbreak, and the silence that followed when the music finally stopped. Before ABBA became a name known on every continent, Benny was already steeped in melody. Born December 16, 1946, in Stockholm's Vasa district, he grew up in a working-class family where music was a shared tradition, not a career plan. His father and grandfather placed an accordion in his hands when he was just 6 years old, unknowingly setting the course for his life. While other kids dreamed of fame, Benny became obsessed with the mechanics of sound, the architecture of harmony, the emotional weight of a chord change. He could play back a tune after hearing it only once, and by 10 he was performing at school concerts, not with flashy showmanship but with an emotional depth rare for his age. At 18, Benny joined the Hepstars, Sweden's answer to the Beatles. Almost instantly, the band's sound matured under his influence. Songs like Sunny Girl and Wedding, which he wrote himself, climbed the Swedish charts. More importantly, Benny was sharpening his instincts, not just as a songwriter but as a studio craftsman. And then, in 1966, a chance meeting changed everything. At a friend's party, Benny crossed paths with Bjorn Ulvaeus, a member of the folk pop group the Hootenanny Singers. They bonded instantly over their shared love of arrangement, melody, and detail. Within weeks, they were writing together, creating songs for other Swedish acts while experimenting with styles of their own. Benny brought the emotional color, Bjorn brought the lyrical wit. The balance was perfect. By the early 70s, both men were romantically involved with fellow musicians, Agnetha Faltskog, a successful solo pop singer, and Anni-Frid Frida Lyngstad, a jazz vocalist turned pop powerhouse. Together, the four formed a group with a clumsy first name, Bjorn and Benny, Agnetha and Frida, but with undeniable chemistry. Their first Eurovision attempt in 1973 fell short, but they returned the following year with Waterloo, a glam pop burst of energy that won the contest and catapulted them to international stardom. A sleeker name followed, ABBA. From there, Benny became the quiet architect of the group's sound. While Agnetha and Frida dazzled audiences and Bjorn spun clever, bittersweet lyrics, Benny was layering harmonies, experimenting with synthesizers, and spending days perfecting a single chord progression until it carried the exact emotional weight he wanted. His gift was subtle but profound, joy on the surface, melancholy underneath. Songs like Knowing Me, Knowing You, and Fernando carried a kind of bittersweet shimmer that listeners might not have been able to name but could always feel. Yet behind the music's brightness, cracks began to form. In 1979, Bjorn and Agnetha divorced. The split was private, but it cast a shadow over recording sessions for Super Trooper. 2 years later, Benny and Frida followed the same path. Their connection had once been described as fiery, built on both love and music, but Benny's relentless perfectionism in the studio left little room for emotional presence at home. When he fell in love with TV producer Mona Norklit, the marriage quietly ended. The band's final album, The Visitors, 1981, reflected that chill. Songs like When All Is Said and Done and Slipping Through My Fingers were laced with unspoken grief. By late 1982, their last single, Under Attack, came and went without much notice. There was no farewell tour, no dramatic press conference, just a slow, quiet fade into history. The mystery of ABBA's disappearance would linger for decades. Benny rarely spoke publicly about it until November 2024. In a candid interview, he stripped away decades of speculation. "We were exhausted," he said simply. "Marriages were ending. The music no longer felt natural. We needed to stop to save ourselves. It wasn't about money or fights. It was about emotional survival." In a follow-up conversation months later, Benny described those final years as joyless routine. The songs came slowly, the passion was gone. "We couldn't keep pretending," he said. His honesty reframed the band's end, not as a tragedy but as an inevitable human unraveling. The melancholy fans had always sensed in those final songs had been real. Frida's own path after ABBA was unexpected. In 1992, she married Prince Heinrich Rutzo-Roos of Plauen, stepping into a life of European royalty. But the grandeur couldn't shield her from loss. In 1998, her daughter and Liselotte died in a car accident at just 30. Frida withdrew from public life, grieving in private. During that time, Benny reached out. Whatever had happened between them, they shared a bond no one else could understand. Then, in 2018, something extraordinary happened. ABBA recorded together again for the first time in 36 years. What began as 2 new songs grew into the Voyage album and an unprecedented live experience. Instead of returning to the stage, Benny spearheaded a project that used motion capture technology to create digital ABBA, performing alongside a live band in a purpose-built London arena. The result was stunning. More than 1.3 million tickets sold to fans from over 140 countries. When offered $1 billion for a live tour, they declined. This time, they would perform entirely on their own terms. Now at 78, Benny is more open than ever. He admits that music was always his refuge, a way to process emotions he couldn't voice aloud. "I gave my best lines to songs," he once said, "not to the people who needed to hear them from me." It's a confession that reshapes how we understand him. The man behind the piano wasn't cold. He was protecting himself. And while that silence may have cost the band its future, it also gave us songs that endure precisely because they're imperfect, messy, and human. Benny's late-life honesty gives closure to a story that once seemed frozen in mystery. ABBA didn't vanish in a storm of scandal. They simply stepped away, quietly, because they had nothing left to give without breaking themselves further. And maybe that's why their music still resonates, because beneath the glitter and melody, it was always the sound of 4 people holding on for as long as they could.